Are you struggling with feeling stuck in your life journey? Does it seem as if the challenges or conflicts that you keep experiencing are on repeat? Healing through feeling could be your new way through to a more satisfying life. Now, here is the host of the Feel to Heal with Sharyn Nichols show, licensed marriage and family therapist and life guide, Sharyn Nichols.
Welcome, everyone. I'm so excited for today's show. I am Sharyn Nichols, and you're watching or listening to the Feel to Heal show. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist with over 25 years of experience, and I consider myself a life guide. And I have been on a quest for myself for understanding for why we do what we do. So today, I'm going to be talking about the difference between being selfish and narcissistic. And the main reason why I chose this topic is because these terms are being used a lot and they are often used incorrectly, thereby causing us to have so many thoughts and feelings. Because I'm sure at some point we've all been called selfish or even narcissistic. And I really want to sort of debunk the myths of selfish and narcissism. So first, I want to talk about my experience. The first class that I took getting my master's in psychology was abnormal psychology. And walked in on the first day, and the professor wrote on the blackboard, because it was still a blackboard at that point with chalk, and he wrote abnormal. And he said, "What does that mean? What does abnormal mean?" And we all looked at each other, and then he started talking, and he said, okay, everybody threw different things out, what abnormal is in terms of behavior or thoughts, and then he said, okay, so what's normal? And then everyone started saying what they thought was normal. And he said, you can't have one without the other, and they have to coexist together. And that has stuck with me for so long now, that there's a spectrum, there is a line that we all want to define ourselves and put ourselves on. And so with the whole selfish spectrum and the whole narcissistic spectrum, you will now, what my hope is that you will now find where you will now find yourself on the spectrum. So the definition of selfish, according to Merriam-Webster dictionary, is concerned excessively or exclusively with oneself, seeking or concentrating on one's own advantage, pleasure, or well-being without regard to others. That's one. Two is arising from a concern with one's own welfare or advantage and disregard of others as a selfish act. So I think selfish gets a really bad rap as an adult, because let's go back to probably the first time you heard the word selfish, which is probably when you were a toddler, when you are egocentric, when you are supposed to be selfish. You don't have the executive reasoning and functioning, your brain is developing. And so I have a feeling that someone who was older, who did already have their prefrontal cortex or already fully formed, they're the ones who called you selfish. So then you internalized that and took it wherever you're going to take it. So as an adult, being selfish gets a bad rap because we're, as I've mentioned before, we're all adults still dealing with our childhood wounds. And one of them for you could be being called selfish. So it makes sense that we are selfish because we are the center of our own universe. So our experiences shape our reality, which is our thoughts and our actions. And so it's perfectly natural to be selfish because you're going to be thinking about yourself and taking care of your own ego. So I keep saying that. Need to stop with the so's. Ask yourself, when you think someone else is selfish, is it possible that you're being selfish for wanting them to do what it is you want them to do? Just a thought. I want to talk about self-care, and then we'll bring it back around to selfish. Because it's one thing that we've learned, from COVID. COVID has taught us that taking care of yourself actually is taking care of your family, your friends, and the community. Because staying in, sheltering in place, that was you taking care of yourself. That was self-care. And then you're not going out and spreading this disease. I think we can all agree that self-care, it's important to take care of yourself and bringing it back around with my thoughts. Taking time for yourself to take a bath, to meditate, to read, to go for a walk, that could be considered selfish, or is that self-care? I mean, taking a break from your routine in order to recharge your battery is really important. It's the way for then you to pick up again and take care of all the responsibilities that we have as adults. So it's honoring it's self-care is truly, for me, I guess, honoring the little one inside of you so that the adult in you can come back to the world and perform in a way that is in alignment with who you are. So going back to being selfish. Why are we so afraid to appear selfish? Where are we going with that within ourselves, with the self-talk? And it's about not being a burden to someone else. So it's about creating a win-win situation when you are asking somebody to do something for you, because that's really where one of the definitions of selfish is you just thinking about yourself. Although we don't exist alone. We're not an island. We need to ask others for help because we can't do it all alone. I mean, just me sitting here today, how many people are in support of me just doing this, literally and then figuratively? If I went down that road of feeling selfish because I was in allowing and even asking, then I would be sitting here not knowing what to say. So I love this learning curve. I'm so enjoying exercising this muscle. So it's about asking. It's about creating a win-win situation, always. So therefore, the person that you're asking of will be able to give, and you will both feel as though it's been a positive exchange, and you both want to support one another. So often we throw our hands up in the air after we make a request and say, oh no, never mind, I'll do that. I'm assuming that you've done that yourself, or you certainly know someone who does that all the time, because then then they become the martyr. And then there's the expectation that you will say, no, what, it's okay, I got it. And then you become the martyr. And so it's creating a lose-lose. So let's create the win-win. So an example of this would be, I need a favor. So I'm going to come to you and say, I need help watching my children today for a couple of hours. Do you think you could help me with this? I understand that you maybe had a plan that you now have to push aside. So how can I support you in what now you need to take care of? So if you were planning on going food shopping and now I need you to come and stay with my kids, can I now get you dinner? And so it's about creating win-win situations for yourself and the other person. I'm at a loss right now in terms of being selfish. It's been a word that's been, bandied about so much. And self-care is really one of the antidotes to being for being selfish. And along with self-care and creating the win-win, it's about setting boundaries. That's where selfish can sometimes be considered manipulative when you're trying to set a boundary. Selfish is being manipulative when you are trying to get someone to do something. Selfish can be also manipulative when yes is the only answer. So if you're asking someone for something, also needs to be able to be an answer, although we feel put upon by that because our expectation is just because we ask, someone is supposed to say yes. And then we could then be considered selfish if we're not allowing the no from them. And it's a tangled little web. And it is thinking about yourself first and knowing, though, that what you want and need is just as important as taking care of someone else's need. And I know I said I was going to talk about selfish and narcissism. And so after the break, that is my plan, is to talk more about narcissists and narcissism. So you are listening to the Feel to Heal show with Sharyn Nichols. And we've been talking about being selfish and self-care. And when we come back from the break, we're going to talk more about narcissism and narcissistic behaviors. And I look forward to you coming back.
At different times on our life journey, we can feel stuck and struggle with seeing our way through. What if the answer to the struggle is just to go deeper than the surface? By tuning in to Feel to Heal with Sharyn Nichols show, with licensed marriage and family therapist and life guide Sharyn Nichols, you'll receive insight and guidance on exploring your feelings in order to heal yourself. Are you ready to create a more satisfying, peaceful, and successful life? Listen for the Feel to Heal with Sharyn Nichols show every Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 5 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Mountain, and 3 p.m. Pacific on inspiredchoicesnetwork.com.
Are you a subject matter expert? Are you here to share your expertise with an audience waiting to hear from you in only the way you can deliver? Are you ready to have your voice amplified across the airwaves? Inspired Choices Network has a global radio platform streaming to millions of people across the world. Professionally produced and supported by an accomplished team every step of the way, you can broadcast from anywhere in the world, knowing your voice matters, and we ensure it is delivered with ease and efficiency. Eager to hear your message, the world awaits. Contact us today to become an Inspired Choices Network radio host. Email become a host at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com.
This is Feel to Heal with Sharyn Nichols Show with licensed marriage and family therapist and life guide Sharyn Nichols. To participate in the program, join our live studio audience in our chat room at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. You can also ask questions or comments by email by sending to Sharyn Nichols at feeltoheal.com. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back. Thanks for coming back. I'm Sharyn Nichols, and you're listening to Feel to Heal on the Inspired Choices Network. And today we are discussing selfish versus narcissistic behavior versus narcissism. And I was just talking about selfish and self-care and the difference between the two and why they are both actually really important to have as part of who you are and how you're showing up in the world. It is important to think about yourself, and it's the degree to which you do it that you will find yourself on that spectrum that I mentioned earlier. So please join me in the chat room with your questions and comments. You can join me live by clicking on the Inspired Choices Network chat room bar in the Inspired Choices Network. And I'm just gonna keep breathing. It's all I can do is just keep breathing. So let's talk about narcissists versus narcissistic personality disorder, because they are two separate things. So a narcissist is a person who has an excessive interest in or admiration of themselves. Narcissists who narcissists think the world revolves around them. So Narcissus in Greek mythology was a proud young man who fell in love with his own reflection in a pool. And he was so in love with himself that he actually couldn't leave. He was so enchanted by his own image that he couldn't actually leave the pool. So he ended up actually starving himself to death. That was Narcissus. And that's where narcissist comes from. And so now we have these different reflection pools, and they're called mirrors. And I'm going to say on one end of the spectrum is where you walk past the mirror and you glance at yourself and you go, oh, wow, you look great. And you keep moving. It's okay to acknowledge, it's okay to see your reflection and say to yourself, wow, you look great, or you got this. That's positive self-talk. That's not being narcissistic. And narcissists on the lower end of the scale, when you're called out, when somebody says to you, you know, I think you're really posting a lot about your relationship, and maybe you're making the others in your world feel not as important. And you then take responsibility and apologize and go, oh, whoa, I need to actually pay attention to what's going on with other people. And so if you have the ability to pull yourself out of it, again, that's just a narcissistic behavior. That doesn't mean you deserve the label of a narcissist. So, narcissistic personality disorder. it's a diagnosis that the DSM-5 has. It's defined as comprising a pervasive pattern of grandiosity in fantasy or behavior, a constant need for admiration, and a lack of empathy, beginning by early adulthood and present in a variety of contexts, as indicated by the presence of at least 5 of the 9 criteria that I'm about to list. So I know that when I read these 9, you'll find one for sure that you identify with. That does not make you a narcissist, or you do not have narcissistic personality disorder. So I have a feeling that the people that you do think that are in your life that are narcissists probably meet 1, maybe 2, although you have to have 5 before you can be diagnosed with the personality disorder. So I'm going to read the 9 to you. A grandiose sense of self-importance, a preoccupation with fantasies of unlimited success, power, brilliance, beauty, or ideal love, a belief that they are special and unique and can only be understood or should associate with people, other special people or high status people or institutions, a need for excessive admiration, a sense of entitlement, interpersonally exploitative behavior, a lack of empathy, which is the biggest one in my book, envy of others, or a belief that others are envious of him or her, a demonstration of arrogant and haughty behaviors or attitudes. So according to the Mayo Clinic, narcissistic personality disorder is a mental disorder in which people have an inflated sense of their own importance and a deep need for admiration. So those with narcissistic personality disorder, or NPD, believe that they are superior to others and have little regard for other people's feelings. But behind this mask of ultra confidence is really a fragile human that has such a low self-esteem, actually, and they are vulnerable to the slightest criticism, which is why they probably have this false sense of bravado sometimes. I want to go back to the 9 criteria. And a need for excessive admiration can sometimes look like words of affirmation. I'm assuming that most of you have heard of the five love languages. There's a quiz. You can Google it, take the quiz. And so if one of your love languages is words of affirmation, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're narcissistic. That's just how you know that somebody loves you. Again, they're all intertwined. And so it's about you finding for yourself where you are on the spectrum. And so lack of empathy, again, as one of the 9, is to me the biggest one in order for you to have with narcissistic personality disorder. So to be a true narcissist, one must have lack of empathy. And we have moments, again, we're human, and we have moments where we are only thinking about ourselves and how in the actions and then the reactions of others when we share our thoughts and feelings, that we can get caught up in the moment of, wow, okay, is this about me? Is this about them? And So a person with true narcissistic personality disorder, it causes them to misunderstand pretty much everything that is going on around them. So they may seem arrogant and self-confident all the time, except they're really, it's that scared little child still inside of them that hasn't been able to mature and grow out of it, which is why in order to diagnose someone with true narcissistic personality disorder, it needs to be seen in high school and, you know, late teenage years, early adulthood. So that's why most teenagers, that you may look at them and think that they're actually being selfish, although it's coming from a place of depression or sadness, that meaning that their self-esteem is low because they're comparing themselves to others. And then the conversation then becomes, well, are they being selfish or are they just being teenagers? Again, prefrontal cortex not fully formed. So their behaviors could look very similar to a toddler who is, by definition, egocentric. It's the way we learn. Brain is still forming, obviously, as a 3-year-old, and then also as a teenager. So quite often we will look at the teenagers that we know, the adolescents that we know, and call them selfish or arrogant. And they're actually just being true to themselves, to now figure out the social norms of how to have the empathy that they need in order to be part of the conversation and to continue to grow and move out of the places that are keeping them stuck, to be able to read the social cues and be in conversation and learn how to create the win-win situations. Because yes, in order to create a win-win situation, you have to think about yourself and then the other. It's important to remember that the major distinction between a narcissist and narcissistic personality disorder is that narcissists are not mentally ill. They do not have a personality disorder. They are not preoccupied with gaining power, money, and prestige. There is no need to worry about the self-esteem of a narcissist because they have an overabundance of it. That doesn't mean that that's the narcissist, excuse me. The narcissist has an overabundance of self-esteem, whereas the person with the narcissistic personality disorder really has a low self-esteem. And now I'm going to let you know that you are listening to the Inspired Choices Network and Feel to Heal with Sharyn Nichols. And we were just talking about narcissism and narcissists. And when we come back, we're going to talk about both selfish, self-care, narcissism, narcissists. And I look forward to seeing you back after break. And please join me in the chat room and ask questions, comments. I welcome it all. See you soon.
At different times on our life journey, we can feel stuck and struggle with seeing our way through. What if the answer to the struggle is just to go deeper than the surface? By tuning in to Feel to Heal with Sharyn Nichols show, with licensed marriage and family therapist and life guide Sharyn Nichols, you'll receive insight and guidance on exploring your feelings in order to heal yourself. Are you ready to create a more satisfying, peaceful, and successful life? Listen for the Feel to Heal with Sharyn Nichols show every Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 5 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Mountain, and 3 p.m. Pacific on inspiredchoicesnetwork.com.
How wonderful would it be to carry your favorite Inspired Choices Network host with you throughout your day? Well, now you can. Inspired Choices Network now has its very own mobile app. Our free app offers live streaming shows, along with thousands of podcasts and TV episodes. Our shows cover a wide variety of topics. Whether you're waking up with us, carrying us through the day, and taking us to bed with you, we're always here for you to enjoy. We're easy to find. Just search for Inspired Choices Network in the Apple App Store or Google Play Store.
This is Feel to Heal with Sharyn Nichols Show with licensed marriage and family therapist and life guide Sharyn Nichols. To participate in the program, join our live studio audience in our chat room at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. You can also ask questions or comments by email by sending to Sharyn Nichols at feeltoheal.com. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back. You are listening to Sharyn Nichols and Feel to Heal show, and we're talking about selfish, self-care, narcissist, and narcissism. And I think it's important that we talk about social media and how social media can perpetuate narcissists. I know I mentioned before about how if someone calls you out on you putting too much out there, then, and you take responsibility and you go, whoa, I need to dial it back. I hear you. Thank you for calling me out. That's actually just you being it's you having a narcissistic moment is what I'm going to call it. I'm now phrasing that. And you know, in terms of me promoting this show, I'm out there and I've had to sit back and question, am I being narcissistic because I keep putting myself out there? Is this a momentary thing? You know, someone said to me that they saw all the stuff that was coming up on Facebook. And I asked, is it too much? Because I don't want to be perceived as narcissistic. And obviously, I know I don't meet the criteria for narcissistic personality disorder, because here's the other thing with people who do have narcissistic personality disorder, they don't typically come into therapy. They don't really want to talk about themselves because they think that they are above it and don't really need it. So with social media, you know, a lot of, you know, teenagers and young adults spend so much time on it, and it's everything, you know, everyone is just putting all the wonderful things out there that they're experiencing, or they put the loss that they've experienced, and everyone just comes and huddles around them electronically. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's actually, you know, Facebook and Instagram and all the others can create a wonderful community, which is what we all need. You know, it's co-unity, community. We want to feel a part of something bigger than ourselves. And that's also not being selfish. It's also not being selfish, wanting to be a part, feel a part of something that's bigger than you. That's part of also being, that's the selfless, and then also self-care. You being a part, knowing that you are whole and complete as you are, and that you are an important piece of the whole, is actually being selfless, not selfish. And so that's why I think that selfish sometimes gets a bad rap. So self-care can actually be going on to Facebook and Instagram and participating in the community and sharing of yourself coming from an open heart. It's really the energy that you go in with. Again, it's about creating a win-win for yourself and the others in the community. And those of us, I'm assuming here, because I do that, those of you listening, I'm assuming that you've experienced others' energy around you and how you've allowed it to affect you, and how you've taken it on. And that is then where self-care comes in, because it's then about releasing it and letting it go and not taking it on. And so the biggest thing that I also do really want to say about narcissists or people with narcissistic personality disorder is that you really need to remember that it's not about you. It's about not taking it personally. And I know we've been so conditioned to receive as though it is our fault or that we have done something wrong. And that's the assumption that we make, which then keeps us in this loop. And the true narcissistic personality disorder person is probably secretly terrified. And they need to have a sense of control, no matter how illogical that is to you. And the biggest thing, that it's not personal. It's not about you. And we take it on as though it is us, because going back to when we were first called selfish as a little kid, when it was appropriate, because we were selfish. That's when you're supposed to be selfish. The world does revolve around you when you're 3, because you don't know any different. Your mind can't even process that. And so we take on again what the conditioning of what we've been told. And so, of course, when someone now calls you selfish as an adult, it brings you back to the first time that you were called it, and you really didn't understand what that meant. Although as an adult, and you having executive reasoning and functioning and the ability to understand the definition. So where are you on the spectrum? Are you stuck in always feeling as though you're selfish, and that therefore, in order to have anything that you want for yourself, you must be a martyr and sort of raise up your hands and get people just to do things for you because they feel bad for you, so you can perpetuate you feeling selfish and feeling less than, and the low self-esteem that comes with that in the moment of feeling selfish? Or can you actually be narcissistic and feel good about yourself and be a part of the community and allow the openness, allow the breadth, if you will, of your own personality to shine through and be a part of the whole? And so putting yourself out there, that was one of the reasons why I was so hesitant to actually do this. Have a podcast, have a show, put myself out there, because caught up in, is this self-serving? And I check in, and I believe that I have a voice, and I'm not really saying anything that hasn't already been said. And therefore, who's ever supposed to hear this and supposed to hear it from me, they will. So therefore, I'm not putting myself out there. I don't have this sense that let me start that over. I don't feel the need to track how many people are watching or listening. I don't feel the need that I need to have millions of viewers or likes, or I just get to be me, and I just get to go with the flow and allow. And I don't know, maybe that is selfish. And maybe it is. And that's perhaps, I guess, where I am on the spectrum, because you can't have selfless without selfish. And so where are you? And letting go of being the martyr and just breathing and just allowing and being a part of the whole. So how can being in a relationship with someone who is a true narcissist more times than not have effect on the relationship? It's okay if your partner puts themselves out there. It's the ability then to dial it back and take responsibility and apologize, and then put in the course correction. Much like I mentioned with, if you're putting too much out there on social media and you're making other people actually feel bad when you're actually trying to make yourself feel good, it's about walking that fine line and finding the moment for you. And again, it comes back to taking responsibility for yourself, for your thoughts, for your feelings, and then for your actions. Well, your thoughts and your feelings aren't going to change. What you have control over is your actions and reactions. So if someone calls you out on something and you do the check-in as to where you are on the spectrum, and an apology is warranted. Notice I didn't say I'm sorry. An apology is warranted, whatever that looks like, whether it's just out there or specific. Then you take responsibility and you apologize and you put in the course correction. And sometimes it does take someone hitting us over the head in order for us to see our behaviors. And so it's about being open to the feedback, both positive and negative. So in a relationship, it's about being able to appropriately call out your partner, and then being open to allowing your partner to call you out on where you are. And then really looking honestly at yourself. And that's then perhaps where the self-care needs to come in. It's maybe about you setting a different boundary, and about you letting go of everything always looking a certain way in order for it to be perfect. That's also where selfish can be misconstrued. That's why sometimes I think selfish also does get the bad rap, that if you're trying to control everything in the situation, you could be called selfish because things need to be perfect. And so where are you on the spectrum of allowing and being open to having to control every single minute of everything? And therefore then where's the boundary? Yes, there are boundaries that are concrete, although some boundaries need to be malleable. 38 Special said, hold on loosely, but don't let go. If you cling too tightly, you lose control. Going with the flow, allowing. You are listening to Sharyn Nichols' Feel to Heal show. Our topic today is selfish, self-care, narcissism. And when we come back, we are going to continue to talk more about this topic.
At different times on our life journey, we can feel stuck and struggle with seeing our way through. What if the answer to the struggle is just to go deeper than the surface? By tuning in to Feel to Heal with Sharyn Nichols show, with licensed marriage and family therapist and life guide Sharyn Nichols, you'll receive insight and guidance on exploring your feelings in order to heal yourself. Are you ready to create a more satisfying, peaceful, and successful life? Listen for the Feel to Heal with Sharyn Nichols show every Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 5 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Mountain, and 3 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. This is Feel to Heal with Sharyn Nichols show with licensed marriage and family therapist and life guide Sharyn Nichols. To participate in the program, join our live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. You can also ask questions or comments by email by sending to Sharyn Nichols at feeltoheal.com. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back. You are listening to the Feel to Heal show with Sharyn Nichols on Inspired Choices Network. And today's topic has been selfish self-care, narcissism. Where are you on the spectrum? You know, the beautiful thing is about being selfish and having self-care is that you get to decide where you are on the spectrum. You don't really need to ask anybody. You know, it's about being truthful and honest and allowing your ego to actually just be present. And it's not about future thinking. It's not even about worrying about the past. It's just about being present. And it's so easy to project onto someone else how you're feeling and taking on, you know, making assumptions about where someone else is coming from and then taking it personally, which I think is part of the selfish narcissistic loop. It's like we feel as though we need to be our own champion because nobody else will. Again, that's an assumption. And so is it actually really true? You know the truth of who you are. And so looking outside of yourself for validation every so often is normal, healthy. Again, where are you on the spectrum? It's okay to look at yourself in the mirror, like I said before, and go, yay, you, way to go. You look great. Because that self-confidence, when you bring that out into the community, is exactly what the community is in need of, especially if the community right now is fraught with dis-ease and disenchantment and so many different emotions that we as humans get to experience. So it is self-care to talk to yourself and talk yourself up. That doesn't make you a narcissist. It makes you confident and then allows you to continue to be with the responsibilities that you take on and that you have to yourself and then to your family, to your friends, and to the world and community at large. So yes, we are individuals, and I guess people get called selfish when they are thinking about themselves and not thinking about the community in the moment. Although you need to check in with what the truth is, and that's taking responsibility for where you are, being an allowment for you to make that course correction. Because yes, it is possible that you're not thinking about the community, you're only thinking about yourself, except you have to come first most of the time, if not all of the time, because without you being the important part of the community, there is no community, because you are an intricate piece of the whole. So going back to true narcissistic personality disorder. Having moments of preoccupation with fantasies, power, brilliance. It's fun sometimes to fantasize. And if that's what you need in order to pull you through, to get through your next responsibility, then do that. Again, you have to meet 5 of those 9 that I read before. And it's the little child in you that at times feels as though you have a sense of entitlement, because when you're 3 years old, you are entitled to be taken care of, to be fed. And so it's honoring the little child in you and knowing it's okay to have these thoughts and feelings, because that's what they are. They're just thoughts and feelings, and you don't have to act on them. You can just watch the thoughts go by. And so, in summation, I think it's great if you're selfish, and that you definitely have self-care, and that every so often you do think of yourself. As long as you check in and you know the truth of who you are, and that it's not coming from a place of lack of empathy, that you actually can be very empathetic, then you're not selfish. You're not a narcissist. You're just thinking about yourself in the moment. And so if you do know someone who is a true narcissist, as my dear friend, psychologist Leslie Austin said, it's not about you, even though it feels like it is, that they are projecting their stuff onto you. And then you, since you have empathy, you can be like, boy, how sad this must be for them, that this is how they have to live, and that they are probably secretly terrified and in need to have a sense of control, no matter how illogical it may seem to you. So don't take it personally, because it's not about you. Therefore, then you actually get to be selfish and not take it personally. So thank you so much for listening for today's show. And next week, I'm going to be talking about what's in your vat. Tune in so you can learn more about what the vat even is. And thank you so much for listening to today. And in closing, I just have gratitude for all of you. And thank you so much for this incredible opportunity for me to get to be me. And peace, love, and satisfaction to you all. And as Oscar Wilde said, you might as well be you, because everyone else is taken. Oh, my website. Please check me out. Sharyn Nichols. Actually, my email is SharynNichols@feeltoheal.com. My website is Feel to Heal. Please check it out. I would love, always welcome to feedback. And if you'd like to book a session, please send me an email, because I would love, I'm so great one-on-one, love the one-on-one. So reach out. Thanks. Take care. Until next week. Bye. Bye for now. See you next week. Take care. Looking forward to talking about your vat with you.
Thank you for choosing to listen to the Feel to Heal with Sharyn Nichols show. Sharyn Nichols will return next Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 5 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Mountain, and 3 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. We hope you'll join us. Until then, give up the struggle, feel all you need to feel, and make this week your best one yet.